We voted for Brexit, and what did we get? Well, we got quite a dramatic little soap opera, didn't we? We got David Cameron resigning, after categorically saying he wouldn't.
But the British people have made a very clear decision to take a different path. And as such, I think the country requires fresh leadership to take it in this direction.
We got the Labour Party tearing themselves apart. As if anyone other than the pissin media really gave a shit.
There were 30 people in Labour's shadow cabinet, but after Jeremy Corbyn sacked Hilary Benn for disloyalty, it set off a chain reaction that has left him with barely a handful of supporters.
We had daggers in the back from Gove. Tears of, "I'm not playing anymore," from Boris. And toys thrown from the playpen of Nicola Sturgeon.
Unfortunately, of course, yesterday's result in Scotland was not echoed across the whole of the United Kingdom. The UK-wide vote to leave the EU is one that I deeply regret. It remains my passionate belief that it is better for all parts of the UK to be members of the European Union. As things stand, Scotland faces the prospect of being taken out of the EU against our will. I regard that as democratically unacceptable.
And to spice it all up, we had Battle of the Sexes, followed by Battle of the Mums. And finally, a new Prime Minister just for good measure. Undemocratically selected, of course. It was quite a script. Who the hell do they think they're trying to fool? Do they really think the British are that stupid? You've not done much in life if you've never experienced someone trying to rip you off. You know that situation where you've done a deal with someone you don't trust. Maybe business. Or you've lent them money, or you've paid for a product. And when it comes to honoring their side of the deal, their car suddenly breaks down. Or their dog dies. Or the bank was miraculously shut. And you don't believe a word of it, but they're full of smiles, and you simply have no evidence to be able to call them a lying little shit.
Dear Mrs. May, the British people voted to leave the European Union. Please give the British people what they voted for.
British politicians have deliberately created chaos amongst themselves to try to distract us from what we voted for in June. Why should we be interested in their domestic quarrels? The only people who really are is the media. The majority of us just want to get on with it.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. I wonder, could I just have a word with you about Brexit?
Isn't it a beautiful day today?
Yes, could I just ask you about Brexit?
What? Oh, you're not still going on about that, are you?
Well, yes.
Huh.
You said if we vote in a referendum and choose to leave, that we could...
Well, I didn't know the government was going to collapse, did I?
No, of course not, but, well, you did say that if we voted to leave, you
So
said...
let me get this straight. The government has just been dragged through hell, and all you can think about is your pissing Brexit.
But the government? Well, that wasn't my doing, was it?
You ungrateful little man.
What? What? Ah. Don't allow yourself to be fooled by this dishonesty. Their political infighting has absolutely nothing to do with Brexit. We were told by the government that
I didn't really hit him. And that is fake.
Ouch. We were told, or maybe led to believe, that if we voted out, negotiations to exit the EU would begin a day or two later. And we would have 2 years before we actually leave. But already, and only after we voted, Theresa May has announced that we won't be invoking Article 50 this year. And also suggested that nothing will happen until Britain is united. i.e., when Scotland agrees. Excuse me. Let's just remind ourselves of Nicola Sturgeon's view.
Deeply regret. It remains my passionate belief that it is better for all parts of the UK to be members of the European Union.
And it remains my passionate belief that the UK should leave. And over 17 million people agree with my passionate belief.
As things stand, Scotland faces the prospect of being taken out of the EU against our will. I regard that as democratically unacceptable.
Democratically what? Like most politicians, she has no idea what the word fucking means. No, Nicola. It doesn't mean those that agree with you. It means the majority that agree with each other.
How come Nicola Sturgeon was cool with the referendum when she was running around the UK campaigning and swaying people to remain? But the moment she lost, it suddenly became unfucking democratic.
Scotland did not vote independently. You did that 2 years ago, remember? Oh, and you lost that one too, didn't you? And what was it you were voting for? Yes, that's right, to break away from the rest of the UK. And ironically, leave the EU in the process. It isn't really about the EU, is it, Nicola? It's about your dislike of the English. You don't enter into politics to shape your country to your liking. That's what's known as a dictatorship. You shape it to suit the people. And don't forget, a good third of your people still agreed with us.
And mute the sound from it so it didn't distract you.
Yeah, okay, we're on it. We're on here. So I've just realised. All right, hello everyone. I've just woken up. So it seems that we're doing well in the referendum just now, the Brexit referendum.
We're doing great.
I don't really know what to say. I'm surprised, and
So who's that?
Get my hopes up, but it's so fucking
Stupid.
difficult because it does look good just
You
now.
retarded idiot.
I'll just summarise the situation. 11,000.
11 million.
Right, it's 11,403,000 versus to leave versus 10,750,000 to remain. So 11,403 versus
come and watch.
10,750.
I'm watching. I just want to record the great event.
That's really surprising. Now, I don't really know the situation. I'm just.
The situation is we're winning.
4:30 in the morning. So. So, God Almighty, I look dreadful. Sorry. Well, I don't know what to say. This is really surprising to me.
Then Nicola Sturgeon might personally hunt you down as the single Scot who voted to leave.
There were actually a lot. I mean, it looks like 11 million. Sorry, let me get this again. Yeah, okay. 1 million leave, 1.66 million remain. I'm surprised that really is. Yeah, that Scotland isn't so bad after all. That's good. That's good.
By the way, let me just say real quickly, I'm now ready to be optimistic, very optimistic now. With this projection from the BBC, I'm feeling really good about this now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Welcome
Sky
to
News as well. Sky News just projected that it's going to be out.
Fucking hell. That would be so good. Fuck. That would be amazing if it did.
Let's play some music.
In reality, half the Western world wanted us to exit. From Europe to America, from Canada to Australia. Anyone aware of what the world's elite is up to? When you get your news from sources other than the mainstream media, you quickly become aware of this.
Vote for Donald Trump.
No,
Not Trump.
Oh?
not the Trump one. Cameron.
Oh. Vote for David Cameron.
No.
No.
Stupid.
Okay.
David Cameron didn't resign. He ran off to avoid fulfilling his promise to the British people. Coward.
The government, with the media's help, are very good with their sound bites, such as Brexit means Brexit, and how the economy isn't too bad since Brexit. They talk of it as in the past tense. And yet, it hasn't happened. It hasn't even begun to happen. Let me remind you, EU referendums have been ignored before. Denmark, the Netherlands, France, and more noticeably, when the Greek people voted against harsh austerity imposed by the EU after they were crippled by the mistake of joining the euro, and when Jean-Claude Juncker had this advice for the Greek people.
I'd like to ask the Greek people to vote yes. Independently of the question they are asked to answer. The question may change over the next few days. I very much like the Greeks, and I'd say to them, you shouldn't commit suicide because you're afraid of death. You shouldn't commit suicide because you're afraid of dying. You should say yes, whatever the question is, so that in actual fact other European citizens don't know what the questions are yet, but you should say yes, because the Greek people, who are responsible, honourable citizens and proud of themselves and their country, should say yes to Europe. Greece is Europe, Europe is Greece.
Shocking, I know. He actually asked them to vote yes, regardless of the question, and even without knowing what the question actually is. Well, the Greeks rightly refused this advice, and voted no, only to have their referendum ignored, and instead were forced to accept even harsher austerity than what they were originally voting against. And then, closer to home, the Irish voted no to the Lisbon Treaty, only to be basically told that they had given the wrong answer, and were made to vote again, this time somehow voting yes. This is how the EU, the elite politicians and media, and the people that fund them, work. And what I see happening now is, we will continue to be bounced between Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon, with much talk of Scotland having a second referendum. And although this referendum probably won't happen, it won't stop months of talk and so-called negotiations. And through all of this, they'll continue to tell us that our economy is suffering as a result of all this uncertainty. And yet, it'll never occur to them to invoke Article 50, so that we can begin trade talks with countries that are waiting, such as Iceland, America, Canada, Australia, and India, amongst many others. That's right, India, a country with more than twice the population of the European Union, are asking, can we finally have a deal with someone in Europe? Since the deal they tried to strike with the EU some 9 years ago has stalled. Well, fancy that. Just one example of how the European Union stifles the world's economy. The 2-year period after Brexit was created exactly for this reason. To allow us to negotiate and strike new deals. But we're not being allowed. We can't do anything until we invoke Article 50. And this is damaging to us. We're getting the negatives, while the positives are put on hold.
We have 2 years to exit the EU. Oh.
Just relax. The camera loves you.
We have 2 years to exit the EU. Oh.
Don't worry. Just go again.
We have 2 years to get
In your own time.
I need the...
Never mind. Hazel. She's the best cameraman I've ever seen, and yet, she turns to jelly in front of it. Okay, she just basically wanted to say? Theresa May is using preparations to Brexit as an excuse to delay Article 50, even though the 2-year period was created specifically for this reason. We don't need a rehearsal for a rehearsal. Oh, and she also wanted to say that feminists have lost the plot, and also Pokemon Go rocks. If the success of Brexit relies on our ability to generate new trade with the rest of the world, then shouldn't we be getting on with it? Shouldn't we be invoking Article 50 now? Well, maybe you wouldn't, if you have absolutely no intention of a full Brexit. P.S. Fuck the BBC. Ouch.